Normally, when I narrate one of these phone trips, I do the local stuff first. But in this case, I did the long-distance TSD stuff first because that was the only part that is fully normal about this stop along the trip. It turns out that the CXP-5 has a chronic problem, and I can infer that from what the tape library shows, as you will see from what happened early on when I started the recorder and began to dial. Here are the first calls that I made from McCormick.
Can you tell me what exchanges I can call locally here?
Well, what's the first three digits on your phone there?
465.
Okay, you can dial 443 and 333 and 391. Wait a minute. What is your exchange?
465.
Okay, wait. I think that's all.
Okay, now that was, what were those exchanges again?
Alright, 333
Mm-hmm.
and 443 and 391.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One of the first things I noticed about this switch is that, like Long Island number 1 crossbar and NX1, the dial tone stays on through the entire first digit and breaks after the last pulse. So when the dial comes back to rest, you do hear a burst of dial tone. Let's try calling 443. This payphone produces a lot of high-pitched static, unfortunately, and it makes it hard to hear, but the out pulsing that you hear is some reflection of the dial pulses that are going out on the line, probably plus relays that stop and start them. Let me try filtering out the static. Yeah, that's the CXP-5 out pulsing sound there. Interestingly, when I dial the last digit of the number, it makes a connect sound that's very similar to crossbar 5 and pentacanta. Then there's a pause for out pulsing and you hear something. And then it makes a cut through tick. Like crossbar 5, it's a double tick. Let's try another 443 number. Oh, come on, Switch. Don't start doing stuff like this before we get a feel for normalcy. What's interesting here is that after I dialed the last digit of the number, we started hearing the sort of sounds that you usually hear after after that, but it came on before anything else happened. And then the ticks that happened after that were just plain abnormal. Okay. Well, that was the only time in the whole visit that that particular sequence of events occurred. Let's try a 443 number again. A double connection. That's all that is. This is a wire trunk over to a Stromberg XY. And, well, actually, it's two wire trunks. Something went wrong, and this crosspoint switch gave us two trunks at once. And it dialed it out on two trunks, so one got a ring, the other got a busy on the same number. Let's try that again, see if we can get one trunk this time. Oh boy. Let me stop the tape here. I have to. This time I got one trunk all right to the Stromberg XY office, but I also got another trunk, this time to TSD. And I thought everything was okay when the call started to progress. Then TSD timed out because it didn't get any digits. Now, just now I flashed, and I reset both trunks. The Stromberg XY just went quiet. It's waiting for digits. The TSD flashed. It too is waiting for digits. Well, let me back the tape up and see what happens next. Obviously, I'm going to dial something. Okay, there's where I reset it. Well, that makes sense. I dialed 4 digits. We actually heard the hums in the background changing as we went from the Stromberg XY selector to the connector. Meanwhile, TSD timed out again because, unbeknownst to me at this point, it wants MFs, not dial pulses. I stopped the tape. I'm going to restart it in a second. And this time I'm going to flash to reset both trunks and just sit there. We'll hear some TSD type crosstalk, and then it'll eventually time out. That's 4 digits. The XY's not making any noises. Dialing some more. TSD still went to a reorder. The Stromberg remained silent, and I've reset the trunk again. Let's see what happens next. Restarting the tape. Okay, we've seen that combination before. 4 digits make the XY ring. The TSD times out to the reorder. I'm going to reset the trunk again, and this time an additional variable gets introduced, which right now I kind of don't need. I am calling from a switch that is giving me double connections. I'm sitting on a double connection right now. And the last thing I need is to discover that the office I'm calling, 443, the Stromberg XY, allows access to another office through its incoming switching train. But unfortunately, to make things more confusing, I do. This time I'm going to dial 9. That's going to cut into a trunk to another office. Then I'm going to dial a bunch of 1s, and you'll hear a recording coming from some independent electronic type switch. Do I need this? And meanwhile, the TSD trunk is still there, and it again times out.
This is a recording. When making local calls, you must dial all 7 numbers. Please use your new directory. Thank you.
Okay, that time I just hung up, and I'm going to start over dialing something else. So dialing a 9 into 443's incoming switching train put me over to some independent electronic switch. Let's try dialing 391. That's one of the local codes that was mentioned here. I bet if I dial 391-1111, I'm going to get that recording.
This is a recording. When making local calls, you must dial all 7 numbers. Please use your new directory. Thank you.
Okay, so I was right about 391, that code we hadn't tried yet being the electronic switch that we got first by accident and just now on purpose. And by the way, the reason the recording says dial all 7 digits is because this switch has replaced a step or XY where abbreviated dialing of local calls was possible. You only had to dial the last 5 or 4 digits. But now you got to dial all 7, which is standard for an electronic switch. You know, I've been listening to some of the switching and outpulsing sounds that this thing makes. First of all, it's really noticeable how that initial sound that's reminiscent of Crossbar 5 and Pentacanta happens so fast. Here, I'll show you. 3, 9, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. See what I mean? Now, if this were Crossbar 5 or Pentacanta, that sound, or something like it, would indicate that we're connecting at that point to the outgoing trunk. But here there are some calls that go through successfully without that sound happening at all. Here's a call to 511 from the previous program. See, it never made that Crossbar 5-like sound. But regular TSD calls beginning with 1 or 0 did make that sound before starting to MF. So the meaning of that sound is not what I first thought. Some calls go through successfully without it. There is, however, another sound that this thing makes that is heard on every successful call, and that is this. Barely audible, I know. I'll turn it up. It's a little high-pitched pop, and we hear that pretty much everywhere. That seems to be the indication of a connection being made. On a 0+ call to TSD, you hear that high-pitched pop, after the initial loud click, but before the MFs start. Pop. .411 and 511 go through without the initial loud click, but they still have the high-pitched pop. Here's 511 from the last digit dialed. The intra-office call has it, in between the two clicks. So it appears that in this system, the important click, the one that really makes the connection, is that, not this. Now on that recent call where I dialed 391-1111, if you listen to the pulsing noises that correspond to this switch dialing out, it sounds as if the last 6 digits are being dialed.
This is a recording.
There's an extra set of clicks between each digit, but the digits themselves do appear to be 9, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
This is a recording.
So what we know is that this office, McCormick, is dialing the last 6 digits when we call 391. What's it dialing them into? This next call probably gives the answer. This is another 391 number that goes to the recording.
This is a recording.
I flashed, which reset the trunk. And now I'm going to dial only 4 digits. Watch what happens. That's the 443 ring. Now, while I was standing here at the payphone, I was thinking that this crosspoint office was all crossed up because I called 391.
This is a recording.
Reset the trunk, and now I'm ringing 443 on just 4 digits. But apparently, it's not an accident that you can reach 391 via 443. The reason McCormick dialed 6 digits on 391 calls is because the 9 is being dialed into the 443 Stromberg XY, which is acting as a tandem. This is a little bit strange because 443 is in Plum Branch, which is southeast of where we are, while 391, Mount Carmel, is in the opposite direction. It is northwest of where we are. So using one to get to the other geographically is a little strange. Here's another call to 391. This one started to answer before we heard an audible ring, and then my tape ran out. The office we're calling from is not a step. Neither is Mount Carmel 391. Yet on a Mount Carmel call we just heard. What step is that coming from? Plum Branch 443. Plum Branch is in fact the only way out in the local network that McCormick has. Clarks Hill 333 also goes through Plum Branch. Here's a call to Clarks Hill. I flashed to reset the trunk, and the trunk noise has changed. There was kind of a standard T-carrier noise in the background. It's not there now, but if I dial a 3, there it is, along with some additional 60 Hertz harmonics. So we're definitely going through another office to get to Clarks Hill. The office that has this T-carrier noise plus some 60 Hz harmonics on the trunk. Now, on the original tape, you can hear me dialing all sorts of things into Clark's Hill, trying to get something beside the reorder. I tried every 1000 group, seems like. I tried dialing a 3 into those trunks, followed by every 1000 group, and no matter what I did, that last time I dialed 3 to get into the Clark's Hill trunk, and then 3 something something something, and I got silence. Here is another call to 333 Clark's Hill, dialed normally. Here is the last local call. It's to Clark's Hill, 333. I've reset the trunk, and where we are now is Plum Branch 443. I'll prove that later. I'm going to dial a 3 to go to Clark's Hill. Now 3, followed by various combinations of 4 digits. Enough. I made a lot more tries than I'm including in this program. Could never get anything but a reorder from Clark's Hill. Anyway, let's dial a 0, which will prove that we are in fact sitting in Plum Branch right now. Here is that familiar Stromberg XY reorder, fortunately without another call on top of it. This phone trip ended very happily because I was so glad to have gotten a CXP-5 on tape after all those years of stopping at Ruckersville and not being able to do it. And this marks the end of the March 1977 phone trip. A wonderful trip this was. I had a high-quality Super Scope cassette recorder that made excellent recordings, and the narration of this material began in 1997, plus or minus 1 year, and it's now 2020. I'm really glad to have a complete, long phone trip out there so you all can experience what it's like to go from town to town and explore all these different environments. North Carolina was great. In fact, South Carolina wasn't half bad. I didn't like Rock Hill. That's the part of this thing that I don't know, that GTE equipment. It all sounds so bland and sterile, and, well, it was the only part I didn't like, but the rest of it has been great. And actually, the August 1976 trip is wonderful too. Not as high quality recordings, but great stuff. Now, what follows is a postscript, not to this phone trip, but to McCormick per se, because what I'm about to play is my last tape of Stanardsville, Virginia, the place I used to visit via Ruckersville, which was a CXP-5, and this is also my last tape of anything to do with a CXP-5. The telephone recordings that follow are from February 1981. I was living in the Atlanta area, and I just happened to dial into Stanardsville. I was being nostalgic, and I either was calling that payphone 985-2992, or I might have been calling a test number 985-2299. Either way, what I got was not what I expected.
I got this calling what should be a working test number in a working 100 group in a crosspoint office in the Charlottesville, Virginia area. 804-985. And so far there have been a lot of calls coming in from the outside and people picking up their phones that have been connecting to this. Redial again. Hello there. Yes, where are you calling from, please? Hello?
Hello, Dr. Hagan?
Yes, I'm testing, sir. Where are you calling from?
Calling from Charlottesville.
And what number are you dialing?
1985-7955.
Sir, the call didn't go through. Please hang up and try again.
Just to clarify, this is something I discovered. I did not cause this. In fact, if I ever did cause something like this, I would have been mortified. No, this happened by itself, and I just happened to call in while it was going on. People were coming in on the line, and so I would talk to them and survey what number they were calling from and to. What's about to happen is an incoming long-distance call to Stanardsville, somehow getting dumped into this giant accidental conference.
What number are you dialing, please? Hello?
The long-distance caller didn't speak, and meanwhile, the person in the office picked up their phone, heard this, and hung up.
Hello?
I heard a lot of high-pitched beeps which corresponded to someone in the phone company apparently dialing remotely. Whoever it was would almost always call a test tone like this.
Hello?
This time I'm dialing a non-working number, 6999. It should go to a recording, but instead we're going to hear the telco guy with his tone and his remote dialing. The reorder tone got louder. I think he just gave up. Every time he dials a 1, the beeps don't follow. So whatever device he's using doesn't seem to be following the dial pulses from his dial as intended. Because I heard him dial a 1 several times now, and every time he dials a 1, no beeps. So something is not working about that remote device. This time, the first thing we'll hear happening is an incoming long-distance call. You'll hear 4 digits dialed over the reorder. That last click there was the incoming long-distance caller hanging up before I could talk to him. So the Charlottesville DDD recording is not there this time. That's probably a good thing. What happens next is a Stanardsville-Ruckardsville customer picking up his phone and instead of getting a dial tone, getting this.
Hello. Hello.
Hey,
Hey, testing the lines. Where are you calling from?
do what?
Where are you calling from?
Conway's calling out of Ruckersville, Virginia.
You're calling from Ruckersville, Virginia?
Yeah.
Had you just picked up to get a dial tone?
Yeah, I just picked up your dial phone and got a business suit and heard you on there.
Okay, please hang up and try again.
Okay, thank you.
Incredible. People just pick up their phone and they get this. Apparently, the whole office gets this. What number are you calling, please? Hello? What number are you dialing, please?
985-2898.
And what number are you calling from?
985-7862.
I'm sorry, the lines are out of order right now. Please try your call later.
Okay, thanks.
At this point, there's a time lapse on the tape. It appears I have probably called back and gotten a similar connection into Stanardsville with the reorder tone. But this connection has some strange, distorted voice crosstalk that I don't know where is coming from listening to the tape now. And there seems to be a conversation going on in the background, and I don't even know who is talking to who.
Hello?
Hey, that call just went through. Seems like things are starting to work again. Okay, that's the test number. That worked. Let's try again. That receiver off hook tone was coming from Stanardsville, and I dialed 0000. That's supposed to go to the intercept recording, not that tone. Now, over the next minute and a quarter, I made several additional calls, and no matter what Stanardsville number I dialed, I got receiver off hook tone. On the last call, I stayed on the line, and after 51 seconds, the receiver off hook tone switched to a reorder, like this. And I stayed on with that for a good while, and there were no instances of callers coming in on the line or anything like that, so seems like things are back to normal. This is the test number 2299. Let's see if it goes through this time. All right, and then I made one more call to the same number, and that also went through. But the call after that, this is 985-0111, which should go to the intercept recording.
Hello? Hello?
Number, please.
985-2963.
Oh, you're kidding. You're kidding. I can't believe this is actually going through. I was listening to a reorder. All of a sudden there's a cam operator asking for my number. So I gave her one, and now the call's going through.
Hello.
Now what just happened was incredible. I called the office, was listening to a reorder, and all of a sudden got someone else's DDD call. I had to give the number I was calling from. I'm gonna dial again. Hello? What number were you dialing, please? Yeah, what number are you calling from? There seems to be some trouble in the lines. Please try your call again later. Hello? Hello?
Hello, is this 985-7964? Hello?
I redialed again and got this.
Hello?
The last call was uneventful. Trying again. Well, what do you know? He dialed 4 digits and it started to ring an intra-office call. Apparently you can make intra calls by dialing only the last 4. That's a nice feature.
Hello? 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 Hello?
Aha! That was the switchman, no doubt, knocking down some sort of cluster blank connection that had gotten a busy signal and our incoming trunk and another incoming trunk and maybe some people's lines all connected together. Now things are probably more the way they ought to be. And it seems like this funny trunk noise is either the trunk from Atlanta to Charlottesville or from Charlottesville to Stanardsville. And this funny noise has nothing to do with the trouble in the central office. It's just a chronically noisy trunk. Now, if this call were going, say, to a coastal area like coastal Florida, this noise might be something else, but sounds like Flipper to me. All right, I'm calling the payphone at the Ruckersville truck stop. See if it goes through. This time I'm trying a number that goes to the test tone. Let's see if it works. That last call did go through normally, and I tried it again, and it worked again. Here's an intercept number.
The number you have reached is not in service. If you need assistance, please hang up and dial your directory assistance operator. This is a recording in Stanardsville, Virginia. The number you have reached is not in service. If you need assistance, please hang up and dial your directory assistance operator. This is a recording in Stanardsville, Virginia.
Everything appears to be normal now.
I called repair service and got them to tell me the number for the CO in Stanardsville, and the person who answered was the guy on that recording. Here are the major highlights of what he said, and fundamentally what went wrong is that he came into the office and everything was
doubled up. Yeah. When I first got in here, it looks like the whole office was locked, and they wanted me to get it down as soon as possible. So I couldn't do anything but release them. Well, I couldn't trace all those anyway. It was, I'd say, most all of the registered junctors were locked up. Got most of it cleared right now, and today I guess I'll try to find out which cost me a little later on. It tied all of the registered junctors to be the same thing as line finders here in the AE office. They were all tied up in use. Either had 120 or 60 or whatever on them. It has happened before, yeah. See, the problem in this one, it's so hard to work on it. They don't give you any way to work on it. Like the registers, I can't go into it and plug it and plug into them and try to find out the trouble. I almost got to get into the chain, you know, to even routine it. Once the tens and units start doubling, that's what happens in this office. They continue stacking on each other. That's why it ties the whole thing up. Like, looks like most of the problem is in the units. Like I've said, it's happened before, and I've talked to our company. They're supposed to have gotten someone from the factory to come down here and work with us on it. But looks like they wait till something like this happens before we do.
By the tens and the units, are you referring to the position of the switch in the switching train, or the digit dialed, or what?
Tens and units are the marking relays that put your cross point switches to your selector or to your terminating junctor or connector. It's just the market translator operates, say, 22 two tens and 2 units. That 22 is associated with a bank multiple, like into your banks, which will put you to your terminating junctors.
How many market translators? Does that office just have one?
We have 2, but that's not enough. 2, and see, the only way I can turn one down to work on it is you have to turn. We have 24 register senders in here. That's all it has. And if I turn one market translator down, I have to turn down 12 registers.
Oh, so it is separate. It's really half and half then.
Yeah. But 12 registers will in no way handle the traffic that comes in here.
Yeah.
And goes out. So once I turn it down, I'm still creating a problem.
Yeah. Is it the same? Are the same register centers used for incoming as outgoing?
That's one big problem. They are.
Yeah.
You come in here just on the same registers as we are going out on, and you come in. Once you hit the truck, you go in, hit another line circuit right into the same registered junctor group as local services in. That is really, I didn't think too good, but that's the way we got it.
Yeah, I figured it might be something like that. See, with the larger systems, with Crossbar 5, there are 8 markers, but they are accessible to everybody.
Right. This office, when it was installed, I was here then. They could have. I don't know why they didn't put it separate. It is engineered so you can come in, you know, with your own registers on incoming toll calls. But they didn't do it that way.
I take it if they did that, they'd again have to have a separate. Would they then have to have a separate register translator for those No, I'm saying if they...
they would use the same, they could use the same translators.
Ah.
But it would have been nice to have had different registers. Really, one register can lock up an office in here. One line circuit can.
Wow.
I come in here in one line circuit. I found the trouble. The office has been locked up when we first installed it. And one little line circuit will lock it up.
You mean like one permanent signal?
If it's a bad diode situation in here, or ground, a certain lead that's ground in that particular line circuit, it will finally lock it up.
Ah. Does has that office always had lockout?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you call it, right? Where if someone
you come in, you don't get anything, it just times out and goes on lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have that. And when people call in here for me to trace a certain call, and I have a hard time explaining to them I can't trace because these on lockout.
I mean, they think they've got something.
Yeah, they think they got that I can. They wonder why I can't find out what the trouble is because they didn't get anything.
Yeah.
And which they probably did get 120. And, a lot of people will want you to trace something. They get 120, but they're not there. That 120 just stays on for a few seconds, then it goes on lockout.
You mean 120 IPM?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it just goes on lockout, so they've got nothing.
They got nothing, but yet, they figure they are supposed to be there. Basically, the office was tied up, and once it's all doubled up, people keep coming in on top of each other.
Unbelievable. Now, this is very unusual. You cannot design a switch such that an individual line circuit can fail, and that leads to the entire office being seized up. But that is exactly what happens apparently fairly often here. A bad diode? A misplaced ground in just one line circuit can make the whole office seize up like that? Wow, that's a bad design. I have to wonder what kind of a sales job Leich did on AE to get them to buy this turkey. That said, I'm really glad I got it on tape because it's a very sophisticated, fascinating sounding and unique switch. This most recent segment, calling into Stanardsville, Virginia from Atlanta, was in February 1981, and the McCormick recordings are on March 18, 1977. Besides these two recordings, there aren't any CXP-5's on my tapes that I know of. It was apparently a very uncommon switch, and that's probably a good thing.